You actually helped out Tai Lopez's brand with building some AI agents. How did you even get to that point? Like, how'd you get into the space? How'd you get to work with such a big name like Tai Lopez?
One of the guys who runs Tai Lopez is one of his many VIP group things. Reached out to me saying like, would it be all right if you come do a session for us? So I just did a session just to kind of like introduce what it is that I do, AI, and just kind of even more so as like a business model and helping all of the business owners in there get to grips with where the future of AI is going. So from there, it kind of snowballed. We've done quite a few of them since and had quite a few interesting conversations with people in kind of his world as well. So yeah, it was all from TikTok really, which is,
Oh, wow.
yeah, great.
Wow, man. TikTok has actually been a powerful tool for me as well in my business, not just in getting podcast guests, but also getting paying clients for my automation consulting business. It's kind of surprising you can tap into such a wide network inside of TikTok.
Yes, the algorithm is great because it kind of, you fall into these little pools of people. And it's nice to kind of like when I go through mine, I know most of the big people by name now, and I think it helps having the following. But there's quite a few people that I can just WhatsApp and be like, "Oh, I loved your video" or whatever.
Mhm.
And collaboration opportunities off the back of that's been massive.
Yeah, 100%. Something else that I noticed, man, when I was doing a little bit of research for this is that it looks like you have some coding background. So, because I saw Python on your website.
Have absolutely no coding ability, but we've now
Okay.
ended up building out a team, and a
Mhm.
lot of them have the background of full-blown developers. It's a lovely space because they're no-code tools. They are super simple, and anybody can pick them up, start building for themselves or building for people and selling automations. But when you give it to somebody who's got a developer background, it's like asking a spaceship engineer to fix your bike. It's like this is a walk in the park for them. So they're really quick, they're good, they know what they're doing, they understand the logic, and if anything goes wrong, they can always fix it. Where I came from an e-commerce background into this and had no idea about the technical. I am getting there with some of the code, but at the end of the day, I normally just go, ChatGPT, I need a bit of code for this, please. And as long as you can spot where to add little bits in, it's really like there's not a massive demand for learning another language of code, I don't think anymore.
I'm not very technical either in my background. I don't really know how to code. I took like a coding boot camp almost 10 years ago at this point. But outside of that, when I got into AI, I didn't have any coding background either. And you had mentioned that you were in the e-commerce space originally. So how
Yeah.
did you fall into the AI space? Like what led to that transition?
Very good question. So I started my first e-commerce store while at university. I went and did a business degree because I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And I was like, oh, business would definitely help. But I ended up with more free time than I knew what to do with. So instead of taking up a hobby or just drinking more, I decided to start a eBay store to start with. It wasn't anything fancy. 3 products when I first started uni. COVID came, and over the first wave of lockdowns in the UK, I went from 3 products to 38 products. And then fast forward me finishing university, I finished uni with a degree and 29,000 products on the website. So went from a little 3 item eBay store to a 29,000 website. And from there, left uni and went straight into that. Was playing around with what I could automate within there. I mean, my first thing was like an automated newsletter and there's nothing fancy. But then ChatGPT arrived and it was like, okay, I can do a bit more here. I can do that. I can do this. And it really opened the door to what was possible. I ended up basically automating the whole entire business. I mean, I've spent 15 minutes on it all day today and I probably won't do any more. Bought out a smaller competitor and now did the exact same thing to them. So implemented the same systems and processes. And from there, ended up chatting to other e-commerce business owners, telling them what I was up to and what I'd done, and ended up basically getting roped into building all of these automations for other people. I then had a very interesting conversation with a business coach. I was explaining what I was doing. He was like, "Oh, what could you do for me?" I do. I don't really know what you do. I'm sure you just sit and chat to people, don't you? So he ran me through his process, and he has a hybrid coaching program, 6-week program, 6 sessions, 1-to-1, and then there's like a course. So we automated the second the payment was received. They got an email invite to the community and the kind of course materials. as well as it pre-booking the next 6 slots, AI would look through the call and like structure a 6-week plan of what they need to be doing and how to get to whatever that end goal was that they discussed on that original call. So from there, it was kind of like, hold on a minute, if I can do this for business coaches, who else can I do it for? So I basically threw myself headfirst into that. We've now built the team out to 8 other automation builders and a couple of guys on the sales side. It's a great place to be.
That's amazing. So you've had some tremendous growth over the past couple of years, it sounds like.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's hard to not if you get the kind of the sales bit right. I think it is slightly harder than selling some other things within the space because there is an education piece to it. But once you get over that and you know how you can get more sales calls booked in, then you can scale it quite quickly. And there's such demand for it at the moment. So it's gone really well.
There is tremendous demand right now. I know when I first entered into the space about 2 years ago, more so as a hobbyist than anything,
Yeah.
there wasn't much information about it. I mean, there was even skepticism about the word AI agency, like AI
Yeah.
automation agency. That's when Liam Otley or something came up with the name.
Yeah.
And now everybody is totally aware of it. So you had mentioned something really interesting right there, that as long as you get the sales piece right, you can see a lot of success, especially today. How do you get the sales piece right? Because it seems kind of difficult, because you can't just tell them what you can automate if you don't know their business, right? So
Exactly.
it's a little more challenging.
So one of the things that have done us really well is cold outreach and getting a client within a certain industry, really honing in on what it is that their pain points are. And quite often, if you're a realtor in the States and you've got a problem, it's very rare that you're the only realtor in the whole of the States that has this problem. So you can build basically mini SaaS products and then deploy them as like you just cloning an automation and redeploying it, which means from a price point of view, you can do it cheaper. We tend not to because they have no idea if you've spent 10 hours building it once or 10 hours building it just for them. Then we just add little bits onto it. So we're integrating it to their CRM instead of the last person. So you can quickly duplicate and duplicate. Then we would do targeted outreach on LinkedIn or email to actually get the rest of them with basically selling a product instead of a service, if that makes sense.
Makes complete sense. Do you have your lead generation side completely automated then? Because I've seen that you've made a lot of videos on scraping leads from like LinkedIn, using Apify, things of that nature.
We started building some of those out for ourselves with the help of AI, actually, to the point where we did personalized presentations. So AI would go onto their website, look at the industry as a whole, and put together custom-made presentations that we would send to each person as like a proposal. We were even sharing them through Google so that they would basically get 2 notifications in their inbox saying I'd shared this document with them, which worked really well. Google's now cracked down on that, so it's less viable. But we basically ended up trying all sorts. We were booking into people's calendars and stuff with invites and stuff like that to kind of just try different things. And over building those, I had loads of people approach me from TikTok actually with other ideas of like what they do and what they would like automating as part of their sales process. We quickly ended up with about a suite of 17 different lead generation automations that we could run. So we would literally just run them constantly for ourselves. And we had more and more clients coming to us with different ideas and stuff like that. And it was just like, okay, look, here's a package of all of these automations. We were then doing the kind of the blueprint approach where we said that let's plug this lead generation system straight into your business. We know for a fact that's going to get you 20 meetings, whatever it is. Let's plug this one in and this one. And basically we're picking the cream of the crop and just going, here you go, run these. We did that on retainer. We've done that on one-off. So basically just implementing systems of book meetings.
That's one of the commonalities I found speaking with a bunch of different like people in the AI space. The way that they started solving like these automation problems isn't necessarily by talking to the business owners first, but rather looking at their own business or what they have in their life and what would be best to automate. It's just quite interesting that everybody I've spoken to so far has like had like the same story. Just, all right, cool. So we needed to do this. And the next thing you know, people wanted that same automation into their business.
Yeah, I need to stop and think about it. There was a moment in my head where it was just like, wow, that's so obvious. But when you don't even think about it, it's just like, oh, quick, keep going, find another person, find what their pain point is. And it makes the sales cycle so much quicker. When it's a custom automation, we normally have 3, 4 calls. Where if it's a one-off, we can do that on one call. Quite often we do a one call and it's like, look, this is what we can offer. It's already built. Do you want anything adding on? Oh yeah, it'd be great to have. Da, 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 da. Brilliant. Okay, here you go. We'll get it delivered. And you can do things fast. You can move. There's less testing around like, is this going to work? Because you've already built it and it works. I can't think of a better way of scaling it. I might be missing it. We have a team that does the custom stuff and then just one guy who literally just plugs these in all day, every day. And they kind of end up with a little suite of products ready to go.
Nice. That's really smart the way you have that structured. So, what would you say is like a good place for somebody who is curious about potentially maybe working with an agency like yours or taking matters in their own hand and learning how to automate? How would you suggest they even go about looking into this process?
Good question. Um, Without directly selling myself, there's loads of specialists in this space, and there's lots of people with lots of experience to build them out. It depends on the size of the company. If you've got a massive company and you want a load of it automating, it might be better to implement an individual and hire somebody with the skill set to just do the whole lot, just so you can integrate it with other systems. But if you just want the one-off kind of bits or a proof of concept, a little company is quite easy to go in and say, can you build me one of these? It won't cost tens of thousands to have something built out, obviously, depending on the complexity of it. The other flip side of that is these tools are getting easier and easier. It just helps to have somebody who can speed that process up. So it depends whether you're time poor or cash poor, whether which route you go down. But I think there's going to be quite a shift. We've already seen with like the N810 Chrome extensions that can build full blown automations in a couple of seconds, that there's going to be a big move towards agent based. So I don't know whether I would be hugely pushing like your whole team to move over to mate.com or something like that and start from the ground up, because I think in the next couple of months, years, it's going to be even easier than it is already to build these things out.
How do you see this going in the next couple of years? How do you see the changes happening? I know it's kind of hard to predict because the technology is changing so fast.
I think the obvious next kind of steps is going down the Manus kind of route, the fully automated agents. I said from the beginning that I think it'll be Microsoft and Google that bring out the agents first, because they've already got tools that all integrate together. Both of them have brought them out in the last couple of weeks. So it will be interesting to see what's next, because it will just be people catching up with those. It'll be interesting to see if ChatGPT goes down that route. I know they've got a couple of plugins already, or whether they're just planning on being basically the powerhouse for all these agents. I think we're going to end up with agent space. I think there's still going to be a massive gap in the market if you can build a better agent than somebody else with a better understanding and a better focus. So you can have an agent for marketing, an agent for accounts, and basically you can send it away to kind of go away and do things that are specialized within its field. At the end of the day, it's all context based, and that's something that people are struggling with ChatGPT. Whenever I see somebody say, "Oh, it gives me a terrible answer," or "It's not what I want," it's 9 times out of 10 because you've not asked it properly. It's like treating the smartest toddler ever. The toddler has no idea about what's going on externally, but the toddler knows everything you could possibly ever know. So it's like getting that balance right, are really clear cut instructions, but also like they are an expert as well.
Now, when you had just said right there, because I've made a few videos on this, and I know the people I've talked to in my local community, the biggest thing that they have a hurdle with, which is kind of interesting to me, because I kind of picked up on it really naturally. Maybe you did too, but just talking to ChatGPT and learning how to prompt. So, what would you say is like a good way to learn about prompt engineering and just getting better and finding more efficient ways to communicate with ChatGPT or other large language models that you could speak with?
I think they've developed a lot, and now you can kind of continue chats, and it's got more and more context. You can also train like agents and assistants based on kind of like what context you needed to have. So there's no reason why it kind of read your whole website before you start a conversation. So at least it knows who you are and what's going on. Really, it's just about having good communication. How would you tell somebody who was brand new to the company, who knew nothing about you, what to do? It's just very like counterproductive, because you feel like it knows everything, which it does, but it doesn't know your situation. So I think it's more about giving context and then being very clear cut with what it is that you're saying. So it's not trying to calculate what does he actually mean by this.
Right. And to circle back a little bit to when you are working with your clients, do you show them? I'm not even sure if you're working with companies that have multiple employees, but if you are their employees learning how to use the automations? Are you guys doing any kind of maybe training or providing information so that once they're done working with you and they keep the automation, they know how to use it?
I think there's two answers to that question. A good automation, in my opinion, should run without having to teach anybody anything. Like it will trigger off the back of an email being sent to the accounts team, which then downloads the invoice and puts it in whichever folder it needs to be. Like it's just more telling people like you don't need to worry about this. Like it's done, it's sorted, it will run itself. And I think dealing with the more entrepreneurial type, they really struggle with this, and like letting go of control of some of these bits is like actually a pain point for them. So in their head, they're like, brilliant, I'm spending 5 hours a week doing this. Can you automate it? Sure. And then they're like, hold on a minute, I'm not doing this and I don't know if it's being done properly, and kind of like fret about that. So I think that was a big learning curve for me initially, was making sure that you bridge the gap between like expectations of what's being done and also kind of being like, look, it's going to be okay. And sometimes even showcasing people exactly how it works simply for their peace of mind, not necessarily actually anything to do with training or how it works or so on. Your question around kind of like providing training and stuff like that, the only kind of real training we've done with bigger companies is actually like making sure they're using the tooling right. And by tooling, I mean like LLMs, whether that's Claude, ChatGPT, any of the other ones, is actually teaching them more about using those tools properly than the automations, because our automations are all built to run in the background without anybody else faffing about or learning a new interface or anything else like that.
That's really interesting you say that because I think there's a misconception in the space, even internally. I have heard from other people that even after setting up like a automation or maybe even one that has an AI agent inside of it, there could be some need to maybe upgrade it, to improve it, or to simply fix something in the automation that isn't working properly. So is that something that you guys offer on the back end, or are you guys just that great that
I
that you're
think
the first one I talk to that's like, no, dude, we had this figured out?
I think an element of it is correcting putting the correct error handlers in place, because these things do break, and some of our automations start off lovely and simple and it's just two strands, and then by the time you go, oh well, if there's an error here, do this, if there's an error here, there, do that. Quite a few of ours can operate with multiple errors within the same automation, just based on the way that it's built. But we quite often charge a kind of like retainer to keep access to us, and like almost like an insurance policy that we're watching over if anything goes wrong. It's a nice little way to keep customers reminded that you exist. So most of our business now comes from returning custom, because like we go in and we're there and we support all the way through the process, and then we just charge them a small monthly fee to kind of basically make sure the automations are running correctly. There's no errors going on. If there are, we'll fix them. And also it's nice things like when 4.1 came out, we went on and updated a load of clients and then emailed them saying, oh, just so you know, we've updated you to the latest ChatGPT model, just letting you know, basically. Or if they were using 3.5 turbo just for a cheaper option, it's then like, oh, good news, the price has gone down again. So you can kind of like keep in with them. It's a nice reminder that you still exist. I think one of the biggest things in this space is getting this right. You open Pandora's box and lots of businesses come back and back and back and back and back again, because you're actually able to solve this problem.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. How do you see the way we work changing with these automations coming in? Because obviously, not everybody's going to be building the AI agents, but you have service businesses, you have other local, like product businesses that have a brick and mortar store.
I think we have a big question on our hands as society, as a bit of a problem to solve. What are we going to do with AI, or at least what the future's going to look like? And I think we'll just naturally evolve and adapt to it. But it's honestly like the introduction of electricity. It's going to be that much of a change to society and how we operate. So if anybody knows the answer to that, then brilliant. I think in an ideal world, and I don't think this will ever happen, but in an ideal world, there's no reason why we can't move to a 2-day working week and a 5-day like weekend. I don't know how we got tricked into the split that we ended up with, but I don't see why we can't end up with AI taking that much of our load, especially with the kind of the introduction to robots and things like that that are coming out. I think it's going to be a very interesting future. I also think on the flip of that, there's going to be so much more content made because it can all be made by AI. We will get to the point where you can sit down and say, "Oh, I quite fancy watching a action movie, but it's got to have Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, and whoever else in it, and I want the plot to be around a bank robbery. Go and make me a movie, and AI will literally be able to spit one out in about, well, it'll probably be a couple of seconds, it won't even be 20 minutes, and it'll be as good as going to a cinema, but you'll be able to pick exactly what it is that you want. So I think from a content point of view, as humans, we will still find loads of stuff to do. My only flaw with that is I think, especially, I think this might be speaking from myself. If everyone went to a 2-day working week, you also have people that are working 5-7 days a week anyway. So quite quickly, it's just going to be a competition of like still what's left to do. So I don't know where that will go. It'll be interesting to see. But yeah, agents is going to have a big impact, and I think there's going to be a lot of time saved. We've still got a couple of bits to like iron out, the hallucinations and stuff like that. Everyone's like, "Oh, lawyers are doomed." Yes, technically they are, but until we sort the hallucinations out, you can't just turn up in court and say, "This is why I haven't done anything wrong," and it's just not even a real thing. It's
Right.
like we just need to get a couple of bits sorted before then. But yes.
What you just kind of said there at the end, man, like that probably the working week is going to change up, not going to be working as often or as much. There'll be a lot more flexibility in what one can do, and your creative powers will increase tremendously by partnering with AI to create your own movies or content or whatever you would like. A lot of people, however, will find that as opposed to exciting, scary. So, what misconceptions do you think there is wrapped around that? Like, okay, cool. So, a lot of the stuff's going to be automated, but what am I going to do in my life, man?
I don't know. I don't see a way, especially with the way that like TikTok, all of the platforms have gone, especially with the algorithm, that content is now a volume game. If AI can spit out 1,000 pieces a minute and 99,000 of them are terrible, you still end up with that one bit being better than a normal person's. So it's going to just outcompete us by sheer volume. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I'll let you guys decide. From that point of view, yes, you can still be competitive in other ways, and there's still going to be stuff to do. But for content alone, I don't see, and this is coming from somebody who posts 4 times a day on TikTok. Like in a couple of years, I think that will be wiped out, and whether it's an avatar version of me posting 1,000,000 times a day or not, who knows? But I think it's going to get to the point where you're not going to know whether it is a real person or not. So, does it matter? From a societal point of view, there's still going to be a need for quite a while for people to make the most of the tools. If you're leading even your company or even your colleagues into a world where AI is lifting the load and helping, even if it's ignoring automations completely, which I don't think I would advise, but ignoring those for now, even just using ChatGPT and Claude and stuff like that to help with processes that you're doing. I introduced my mum to ChatGPT, and she now is formatting tables with it and all sorts at work. And it's like taking a fraction of the time now. This is great. Where's it been? So just making the most of it in that kind of way. It is going to be a massive shift to industries as a whole. We were in with a big e-commerce company the other week, and they've got a team of 7 people doing their weekly newsletter, and it's something that can be fully automated. And it's like, where do you draw the line of like, oh, this is really hyper personalized and beautifully written and so on, but AI can do all of it. So it's like, what do you then do with those individuals? Don't get me wrong, that might mean that instead of them doing 1 post a week, they can do 2, or they can do it in 5 different languages, or they can make it more tailored and stuff like that. There's still ways to improve upon it. It's just how in the long term does society deal with AI? I genuinely don't know the answer.
It's a hard question to answer. Even the tech giants who are building this are like, we don't really know where this is going to go. There's so much that's unpredictable with the speed of a progression. So yeah, no, I think that's a fair answer, man. And what kind of advice would you give someone who is kind of looking to get into the space or maybe putting into their business or just kind of learning about it?
Just do it and keep doing it. There's loads of content out there on the internet to kind of help with that process. One of the hacks that I learned a long time ago and is an absolute godsend is using tools like GPTs that are trained on certain tools. If you're building in Make.com or building in an A10, there are tools in ChatGPT that will help you with that. So you can literally upload a screenshot, be like, this is broken, why? And it will help you kind of work through what the problems are. And it's been a massive time saver for me and the team because every now and then it's not clear cut and there could be a couple of problems, but it will run you through a logical kind of way to resolve that. So that is one thing that I'd highly recommend. But these tools are only going to get easier to use. Just don't be afraid to get stuck in with them, I think would be my biggest word of advice. Like get stuck in and play around with it and see what happens.
Well, what would be like your three AI tools you would advise somebody to start learning today? Even if they're a business owner, but they plan to outsource it, it would be better for them to kind of understand what things are.
Yeah.
So, like, what are the three key things that people need to start using today?
I think one of the big LLMs, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, I probably wouldn't go Perplexity because it's a bit more niche.
Mhm.
But one of those two, I would go to whichever one's released the newest model because they're always a little bit better than the last one, and it kind of pings between the two. I would play around with those models, but definitely less of an AI tool. Make.com or NA10, I do think there's a steeper learning curve to NA10 than Make.com. Don't think there's a huge difference. If you can learn one, you can definitely learn the other. They would be my top two for sure. I think there's lots of gimmicky stuff out there, like image generation stuff that's brilliant if you're in that kind of world. But also for me, on a day-to-day basis, I very, very rarely are generating images, and even ChatGPT's got pretty damn good at that already. They're my two. I don't know what my third one would actually be.
But fair enough. As long as you have those two, you can do a whole lot. Because,
Yeah.
like you were saying earlier, there's been a lot of automations that I've created that I've had trouble with, but I use ChatGPT to kind of walk me through where do I need to correct this?
Yeah.
Or with the new Chrome extension, N8N Chat,
Yeah.
um, that right there is a totally life-changing tool when it comes to creating automations as well. So there's a lot of extra tools that you have now to better improve your workflow automation.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that's out there that's open source now. There seems to be a
Mhm.
big move towards that. I was chatting to a really good friend who's basically taken DeepSeek's original open source, now running it on his own server. But he's also like building apps and stuff like that, which I know you can do with just a simple prompt. But the open source code for quite a few really, really smart applications are out there, and you can just kind of go in, prompt ChatGPT to change it to whatever you need it to do, or Claude just to kind of choose what you want it to do. And then from there, there's people building full blown applications that would have taken like years, a couple of years ago, in a weekend. So I think it's just being aware of the tools. And on the flip of that, there is lots of noise. I think there's something stupid like 4.4 million tools that have AI in there somewhere. Quite a lot of them are rubbish, and I don't think you'd be able to try all of them even if you wanted to. If you follow the main kind of players, quite often they'll, even if they're catching up on something else, they will wheel out the good tools that are actually worth having. Like Manus was massive a couple of months ago. I haven't seen a single TikTok on Manus for months now, and it's still as good and great, and now it's free, and people aren't fighting over access codes. It seems to be you've gone a bit quiet. So kind of follow the trends, but agents is going to be a big space. Just be aware that NA10's initial agents and stuff I've been building in Make.com for ages, it's just been multiple modules instead of one. And then using filters to choose where that data goes, which is kind of all that agent did. Whereas I think Manus, where you've got more access and it goes away and does some research, and you can tell it to go find you some flights and it will go away and do that and think about which airport you want to land in, and actually think, seems to be more of an interest, and I think where it's going to head for sure.
Yeah, I think it's heading that way too. I started to use this one called GenSpark. I'm not sure if you've heard of
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
but yesterday, man, this workshop we have coming up this week, I just brought on a sales guy And I was wondering if GenSpark would be able to just do all of my lead gen for me. And so we already have a bunch of leads put together, but I was like, let me just try this out. So I just typed in a very basic prompt. I was like, hey, these are the cities that I want to target. I want business names, numbers, emails, and if possible, the business owner's name. Dude, within 10 minutes, it wasn't a lot. It gave me a high quality lead list of 10 with
Yeah.
phone numbers, owner names. I didn't do anything. I just prompted it and it browsed the web, did everything for you because it's agentic,
Yeah.
and that's where the huge wave is going. It's interesting to see how ChatGPT is going to integrate some of those things. I know it has a feature like that already.
Yeah, the
Version.
deep research. Yeah.
Yeah, the operator. There's a lot of cool tools coming out. But like you had also said too, man, with Manus, there was a lot of TikToks on it before. There's not so much right now for people like myself and you who even create content around AI. There's endless things to talk about. But the downside to that is for people looking to get into the space or having some portion of their business automated, it's overwhelming. How would you say people should handle all these new tools coming out?
Follow the big players is a big element of it. There's stuff worth having, even if it's 2 months later than you could have had it. You're still going to be ahead of a lot of companies, and I think a lot of the big players are really, really struggling with how to integrate this. So I think really you can get ahead of a lot of people that are twice your size by being early on this. So even if you end up paying more to do so and doing it now, I think you'll reap the rewards of doing it now than waiting even 6 months. The technology gets better and develops around what you already have. It's not necessarily going to just fully replace what you've got. I'd just be making the most of that. And the prices are just getting cheaper with N8M bringing out self-hosting and stuff like that. It's all of a sudden, it's like there is now a race to the bottom of some effects. Mate.com came to beat Zapier's prices, and anything came to beat Make Sans Zapier's. It's just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. So it's only going to get cheaper. I'll be surprised if AI doesn't do a bit of a peak on costing and then drops back down, seeing as they're burning through money. I know tomorrow. It's going to be very exciting.
It is exciting. If people wanted to reach out to you, maybe get some automations done through you, how would they do that?
My TikTok is the best place. Let me pull it up. Yeah, so this is my TikTok, Dan_automation.x. So you can either just ping me a message on there or the website's linked on there as well. So if you've ever got any questions, yeah, feel free to reach out, whether that's wanting to start your own automation agency or even just get some of these automations built, then we are helping people with both.
Nice. That's awesome. I'll be sure to put that information in the description below. That way people can also just link to it right there, make their lives easier. But
Perfect.
Dan, man, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. You're a wealth of knowledge. You have a lot of experience in the space, and in your short amount of time, too, you've had a lot of impact talking to some big brand names.
Yes, we've, well, just been hungry and going at it, and getting some lead generation right as well has been vital. I don't think we could have done it without, well, TikTok's been a massive help. Last week I was at a roundtable event talking amongst actually the Ministry of Finance in the UK was there. So just sat and chatted to him for like half an hour talking about the impacts of AI and stuff like that. So TikTok's been a massive help, but having some proper strong lead generation systems has been like night and day difference.
100%. Man, you just never stop impressing me at this point. Now you're talking to your higher up government officials. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was bizarre. I just walked in the room and got introduced to everyone. He came late because it was a ministry meeting, as you do.
Right.
So like, oh, here you are. The lady that was running it knows him quite well, so he got grilled about being late, and then it's like, oh wow, this is who you are. So yeah, fascinating.
No, that's awesome, man. Well, hey, I really do appreciate you coming on, having a conversation with me today. Definitely got a lot of good insights.
Awesome, no problem. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.